as you go through it, we're looking for the best decision for the team as we went through that.
So we have some guys here who would know more about whether Dez could win one-on-ones and how consistent he was or was not. D'Angelo Hall and Will Blackman, who have faced him for the last couple of years with the Redskins. Have you seen the things that he talked about there?
I've seen some of them. You know, I made the statement earlier that I still think Dez can play football. I think he can be an exceptional receiver. I think he can help win a lot of games. I think he can win one-on-one matchups. I also think Dez needs to realize where he's best suited. I said he needs to go inside and play in that slot role. He's not a guy. He's never been a real fast guy. He's always been a more powerful guy than he has been fast. And so I like to see him inside where he can use that strength and his ability to run after the catch, just run more option routes instead of downfield. He's not running past anybody now. But I think he still can play in this league, absolutely.
I can say that I have won some battles versus Dez, and I have lost some battles versus Dez. I mean, that's an interesting quote to say that he has won some and lost some. I feel like with Dez, he's only 30 years old, and that's not a dinosaur. I mean, as soon as Tony Romo left, his stats did go down. I felt like they featured, obviously, they drafted Zeke, and they featured him more. And then a lot of passes, as you know, D-Hall, they went to Cole Beasley inside and Jason Witten inside. So I think he's in a situation where he's similar to Anquan Bolden, where he doesn't necessarily have to be wide open. If he's covered, he's still open. He's a very, very strong receiver. So Dez, he's going to find the right situation, and I think he'll be just fine.
It's almost been 3 weeks, as Dan mentioned, since he was cut by the Cowboys. Still doesn't have a team. Is that a bad sign?
You know what? I'm in a situation right now where I worked out for 4 teams, and a lot of them told me, hey, you know what? Let us go through the draft, and then after that, let the young guys go through rookie minicamp, and then we'll see what we need. And I think right now Dez is in that same situation where let the team draft who they want, let them see who they have in minicamp, and then after that, he'll find the right situation. Dez is in no rush to go anywhere, as I don't think he should be, and he'll find the right situation.
Yeah, and if I can piggyback off
Yeah,
that,
of course.
I just think Dez needs to really just go to play football. You know, it's not about the money at this point, you know. I'm sure he has offers, but I'm also positive that their offers aren't where he wants them to be money-wise. And he wants a one-year deal where he can go out and prove it. That's the formula that a lot of guys who've gotten cut do. It kind of, you know, it wasn't the best situation for him because he got cut after free agency. If he would have got cut before free agency, I'm sure a lot of teams would have been clamoring to try to get their hands on Dez Bryant. But because he got cut after free agency, now he's kind of in that waiting game like Will talked about, where he has to wait and kind of see, you know, what other guys that are on rosters, just see how they play, if they play well, if they don't. And, you know, injuries as well. That, you know, that plays into it too. So I think Dez will find a home, but it won't be for top money. It's going to be a, you know, low money deal where he has to go in there and prove it, and then he'll get paid the following year.
You mentioned mini camps. Browns have one that starts on Friday. It'll be our first chance to see Baker Mayfield on the field in Berea with his new rookie teammates, who the Browns are expecting him to have a positive effect on. In fact, according to their scouting chief, Alonzo Highsmith, that's part of the reason they drafted him, because of his power to affect other people. He said that's something guys like Favre, Montana, Kosar, Rodgers, Troy, they all had. There's a kind of presence with them, he says. Like when you're a young kid and your big brother was around, and you always felt a lot more confident when your brother was there with you. When I met Baker, I saw that in him. So if we needed any more proof that the Browns have moved away from all the analytics approach, Exhibit A right there. He's talking about a gut feeling, right, which is something that's tough to quantify. How important is it that a quarterback have the trait that he's talking about?
It's huge. You know, it's funny because Alonzo Highsmith, he actually had Sam Darnold rated the whole year as the #1 quarterback, as most people did. And he didn't change his mind until he actually met Baker Mayfield. And the word he used exactly was efficacy, and that's the effect that changed people around you. You know, he walked into the room, you heard Hugh Jackson mentioned that, I guess Baker yelled the hee to the whole building. Everyone else responded with the same chant. And just how motivating and inspired he was. And you can go through his history. He walked on to Texas Tech, and then he left there and then walked on to Oklahoma. Just his adversity and resilience just to keep fighting as a Duck. And I think that's exactly the type of person that they were looking for in Cleveland.
Have you seen examples with your quarterbacks where someone just feels like a leader and they inspire the guys around them to do better, and then vice versa?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, Baker's a guy who, from the jump, it was just something about him. And I've never met him at all. But he's just a guy that he pulls you into him. You know, it's something about him. It's his moxie. It's the arrogance. It's the confidence. It's all of those things that, as a player, especially a defensive player, when you see quarterbacks who generally don't have those traits, when you see them doing that and showing it, you feel more connected to them. You know, it's guys you want to go out and have a beer with. I think Baker's one of those guys that I think everybody in that locker room would definitely rally behind and want to hang out with him. And he's cool enough and seems cool enough that he's conjuring up those conversations. He's not waiting for guys to come talk to him. I think he's very approachable, and I think those guys will definitely rally behind him.
Well, we will see, at least in part, on Friday when we get a chance to see him interacting with his rookie teammates, at least for the first time on the field for that rookie minicamp. Dan?
Go ahead, Dan.
More from Alonzo Highsmith and the recon he was doing on quarterbacks in the draft. This one regarding Josh Rosen is kind of bizarre. Highsmith saw the UCLA volleyball team at the airport and approached the volleyball coach to inquire about Rosen, asking what Rosen was like. The coach said his girlfriend is on the team, and she's right over there, so you should ask her. Highsmith declined and went on to say later there was something about Rosen that just bothered him. Rosen talked about that story today on The Rich Eisen Show.
I thought it was interesting he didn't talk to my girlfriend. I mean, maybe he was scared of someone actually saying something good about me. But I don't know. I just thought it was funny.
So there would have been no red flags, right? I mean, what would her scouting report of you have been, Josh?
It's amazing that you can pull a red flag from something with literally zero information. Like, he literally pulled absolutely no information from his encounter, and it managed to be a red flag.